me find my shadow. Shadow. Oh, shadow.
Where are you? Follow the cold shiver running down your spine.
There's a concept of something called a mirror wall. It sort of blocks the head from the heart. It's a big bridge of our walls that we put up, like a big glacier. And there's this idea in movies and in The Never-Ending Story, I really like this depiction of this mirror made of ice. And there are many stories where we have characters who gaze into water in order to connect with their intuition, in order to gain perspective. And if you think about it, water is the original mirror. As we gaze into our reflections, we can see ourselves. And what sometimes can happen is maybe there was a time in childhood or a traumatic situation that has happened, one where we felt powerless to stop, and that experience can imprint. We find ourselves stuck and frozen in that space. It's like the water is frozen over. We go through life, and sometimes it's how we cope, it's how we learn to survive, especially in childhood when traumatic experiences take place. The body has its defense mechanisms, and that's one way to keep us functional in the world at the same time as these things having happened to us. As you live your life and as you get older and you disconnect from your feelings, sometimes when we block out negative emotions, we're also blocking out our ability to feel love and positive emotions as well. And there's an emptiness there and a longing for something better, but a constant state of going around in circles in this cycle. And definitely, if you didn't watch the previous video on the hungry ghost, go and watch that video first, because it can sort of inform a little bit about what we are going to be talking about here. I've compiled these things in order to give what I've learned through years of this process, and giving a roadmap, or just if there are any things that I say that could help make a connection in someone's mind in a place that they were stuck on this journey, then I feel like I will have done my job. So thank you very much for returning and getting into this the subject I've long waited for and have been facing. It's a very confronting subject, so let's just tread lightly and go into this together. I really like how in The Snow Queen by Hans Christian Andersen, the fairy tale that Frozen is based on, and actually the Ice Queen in Narnia is based on as well. It opens up with a scene of these demons that are carrying a mirror that, if you look into it, it will only magnify the negative things and make it impossible to see the positives. They accidentally drop it, and shards of glass go everywhere into people's eyes and into their hearts. It's a very good depiction of how we feel when we have to, live in a certain kind of household or keep up with society and keep up with appearances. Those shards of glass can cloud our vision, and it's very tempting. And the winter time, through many cultures, is seen as a time of going within and a time of deep reflection. And that's very true. It's the time when we normally gather together with those who are most important to us, and we survive through the winter together. And it's because of all of that isolation from the outside world, we're able to really look at what we've been creating and what we hope to create moving forward in our lives. In the book, it even says that empty and vast and lonely were the halls of the Snow Queen.
Right here.
I don't understand.
Did you think it was coincidence?
What do you want?
To say what you won't. To do what you can't. To remove those in your way.
When we put part of ourselves in the bag, it regresses. It devolves toward barbarism. Suppose a young man steals a bag at 20 and then waits 15 or 20 years before he opens it again. What will he find? Sadly, the sexuality, the wildness, the impulsiveness, the anger, the freedom he put in have all regressed. They're not only primitive in mood, they are hostile to the person who opens the bag. So what do? We put on a mask. I think that when we cut off from our emotions and what we really are truly feeling and what we really truly want, that energy is going to come out. It's going to lash out subconsciously, and we end up hurting people. I really like Bellyache by Billie Eilish in the album Don't Smile at Me. She does a really good job at illustrating how that contributes to the current culture today. I like how she has these flowers that she doesn't just pick these flowers, she pulls them up by the root and then just throws them away. It's kind of illustrating how we treat the people in our lives. When we live in this mentality, we don't even realize, or maybe we do realize, but we don't have enough connection to our emotional development to realize the impact of the actions taken. She actually has another good one on this subject called I Don't Want to Be You Anymore. Really is talking about when you're looking at yourself in those moments. And that's the thing here, when we look in the mirror and who we see, whether or not we like that person, whether or not we feel that we know that person, it's all about getting mental clarity. Shards of glass distort our vision. I think it's really important to get out a piece of paper or something and really start to decipher all those voices in your mind, in your headspace. What are all these thoughts you're having, and where are these thoughts and these things you're thinking, where are they coming from? You know, sometimes that voice isn't even coming from us, isn't even coming from our higher guidance system. Some people like to separate the different thought patterns, track them at their source, and then decide whether or not you still resonate with those messages.
So arm thyself with this enchanted shield of virtue and this mighty sword of truth. For these weapons of righteousness will triumph over evil.
This is a moment where I'm going to tell you guys how much of a nerd I am. In high school, I actually took fencing. I am a little bit fascinated by the concept of truth as a sword. Truth that cuts through the false things. You see it in the Bible, but also we see it in fairy tales, film, art in general. And if you pay attention to sword fighting scenes in Hollywood, you'll start to notice the way that the sword fight itself tells the story. In Princess Bride, it's very dynamic, very clever, lots of skill. You have to be quick, you have to be sharp mentally. It's a very, very mind element film. Swords don't always have to mean truth, but it can also mean anything in the headspace, thoughts, judgments from yourself or other people. A sword is a weapon. It can kill or it can be used to defend. This is why we have to tread the thought space with a little bit of courage and bravery, because of the way that truth can cut deep. Sometimes these things that we discover about ourselves or about the things that have happened, and we can feel that constant sense of bleeding out from the reality. We get stuck in our failures and what we feel to be our inadequacies. And I love how in Pirates of the Caribbean, there is a clear mirroring, a clear topic of discussion about judgment. We have Will here, who he makes all these swords. There's a huge theme in the movie about Will's judgment. It's almost like this fight between him and Jack is a battle in his own mind of who of his shadow, of what wants to come out.
You know, for having such a bleak outlook on pirates, you're well on your way to becoming one. And you're completely obsessed with treasure.
That's not true. I am not obsessed with treasure.
Not all treasure is silver and gold, mate.
Harsh judgments he has about his own personal desires that he has for himself, that he projects onto the world around him. It's a very clumsy fight if you watch it again. There's lots of teeter-tottering and spinning around. So you can tell all the mental gymnastics it's taking and how much Jack challenges his beliefs. No matter how self-righteous he is, there's a lot he still needs to learn and a lot he doesn't understand about the world. Getting his bearings about the subject, you can tell the level of internal disrupt and how confusing that is for him. When we're disconnected from what is actually true, it can be easy to fall prey to those who would manipulate us.
Me, your greatest creation. Bringing you what you've always wanted. Power beyond your wildest dreams.
Look, what do you see?
A greater Egypt than that of my father.
That is not what I see.
Who's really making these decisions? When we let go of blame and holding on to what we've lost, can practice forgiveness of the people who've hurt us, but not just for them. Can forgive ourselves for where we've missed the mark, for when we didn't measure up to what we thought we needed to be. We can start to receive unconditional love, and it starts with ourselves. But once we start to piece together all those different elements, when we see it all laid out in front of us, we can get a really clear picture of who we really are. And that is worthy of the charge. We can choose what we want to do and who we want to be moving forward, in spite of all the risks, because life is an adventure. Emotions are an adventure. Being in these human bodies, that's what this is. It's one big adventure. And you know what? It's okay to be afraid. Our fear has purpose. And I'm not even convinced that feeling afraid will ever go away. There's fear in facing these monsters. But you know what? We can have courage. The truth is, as you gaze into that mirror, that child in that flow state, with that inspiration for the future and for the present moment, never left. That child who doesn't have to do a thing to be worthy of love, who's free to live their life to the fullest, is still here. Once we see this child in ourselves, we can see the child in everyone else too. Now, you know I'm gonna have you do an exercise. So close your eyes, please. We're going to take 6 deep breaths in and out. So begin to expand the ribs, the stomach. Maybe your shoulders rise. And let's just sigh it out, out the mouth. We'll sigh it out 2 more times. Inhale. Exhale. 1 more time. Without forcing. Exhale. Relax your shoulders. Take 3 more breaths on your own pacing. They say that it takes 6 breaths, 6 deep breaths, to shift as we switch from the sympathetic to the parasympathetic nervous system. We allow the blood to flow back into the prefrontal cortex, that decision-making part of the brain. When we're in fight or flight, our blood flows to the extremities and we're unable to reason. That animal comes out, that animal nature. But as you take these breaths, the blood will flow back into the brain. And as we exhale, we relax any tense parts of the body. And we're able to see things in a clearer way and be in the present moment. And we're able to make our choices better in the future. Now take your palm, place it in the center of your chest. I know it's a lot to say, to keep going, to keep standing up. Even if we're feeling kind of numb and trapped in the mundane of life and confused by everything that we're analyzing, we can still take notice. We can still ground ourselves and remember. Feel your heart beating in your palm. You are alive. Feeling is human, and it's part of this experience. The pain and the pleasure and the excitement and the joy and the sorrow. It's an adventure. So find that courage. Find that courage and know that no one can take away this valiant, courageous heart that you and your ancestors through all time have carried in order to live. This light inside of you, given to you by the divine, is still here. You can always find that fire and that light and that passion. So take up your bow, valiant warrior. Take it up and aim true. If we fall, we just get back up again.
Well, Harry's got sort of a wonky cross. That's trials and suffering. And that there could be the sun, and that's happiness. So, you're gonna suffer, but you're gonna be happy about it.